as well. With that, I am super excited to get started, and I'm joined today by Jeff Brown from IntelliHost. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourself, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, oh, I'm not on mute. That's good.
Yeah,
Like I said, my name is Jeff Brown. I started IntelliHost about 2.5 years ago. And before that, I was a data nerd by trade. Worked for companies all the way from big corporate, Target corporate, down to smaller companies like Overstock.com, 1-800 Contacts, but always in the analyst field. So started vacation rental business back in 2018. Ran that for a little while, and then built IntelliHost internally, and and here we are. So I don't know if you want the short version or the long version, but that's me in a nutshell.
awesome. No, yeah, you'll be able to, we'll kind of do a whole IntelliHost intro in a second, so you can talk more about the company and what you guys do. And I'm really excited to have you here because obviously I'm Arthur, the founder of StayFi, and as most guests probably know, StayFi is very oriented towards helping hosts and property managers drive more direct bookings. But we obviously want our customers to be successful on every platform, OTAs, direct. And IntelliHost brings a lot of intelligence to how you can make all of your listings, especially those on Airbnb and Vrbo and platforms like that, more successful. Because we want to help you generate revenue everywhere, right, to improve your business. So we'll kind of do an intro and then we'll go into kind of how IntelliHost works, why data matters, understanding the metrics around your business that you should be focused on, and then how to obviously improve those. And then I'll take over for a little bit and we'll just briefly touch upon how this all fits into your overall business strategy in terms of driving more direct bookings. Because obviously more bookings everywhere is what we want to help our customers and everybody in the short-term rental space achieve. So just a little background on StayFi if you guys aren't familiar. StayFi offers a variety of tools that help hosts and property managers drive more direct bookings. It all starts with data collection. So we have a bunch of tools, but the main one is Wi-Fi based data collection. So in short-term rentals, we help operators collect not just the booker's contact information, but we help you collect data from every single person staying in your listing. So then you can remarket to all of your guests and drive them to come back to stay with you again and again, and also to refer you to their friends and family. And then obviously, once you are collecting more data and bringing that in from Wi-Fi, your website, your property management software, you then need to market to those guests effectively. So within StayFi, we provide a email marketing solution that's customized for the short-term rental industry. So unlike a generic MailChimp or Constant Contact, all the campaigns automations are built for short-term rentals to help you be very successful in remarketing, even if you have no email marketing experience. And then we provide additional guest engagement tools so you can not only drive more bookings directly, but also increase your revenue per stay with things like upsells, partnerships with different affiliate programs. And then finally, because we are a Wi-Fi based tool, we have some cool outage and occupancy features that protect your properties. And across all the properties that we work with at StayFi, we've collected now almost 10 million emails. So that's 10 million guests
Dang,
that our
son.
customers are educating about Book Direct. So we hope that we're not only helping your business, but the more guests we teach about Booking Direct, the more we can benefit everybody in the short-term rental space. And now, Jeff, do you want to give a little background on what IntelliHost does?
Yeah, yeah, happy to do that. I know this isn't part of the presentation, just a shameless plug for you guys. We actually adopted StayFi when we started Loma Homes back in 2018. And it was kind of a game changer for us, especially now. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Airbnb is trying harder and harder to mask the guest contact information. So
Maybe
they're
just
starting
load.
to hide emails, phone number. It's going to get really, really tough. So I'm at a conference right now. That's why I'm like hiding in the corner of a stairwell. But I've been talking to property managers with like 300 units. And the only way they have to collect guest information now is StayFi. They're like, yeah, we use StayFi. So if you're not using it, you probably should. It's the future of direct booking. So really important there. Now onto
Good stuff.
IntelliHost. Um, so IntelliHost, let me tell you my story just a little bit, and I already kind of went back, previously, but I think it's important to understand that IntelliHost was born basically from a property manager for property managers, and what I mean by that is, I've been a data nerd at heart for forever. But back in 2018, we started our own vacation rental brand. You can look it up. It's called Loma Homes, loma-homes.com. And what we did is we kind of came with this unique mindset. Now, I should say unique at the time because now it's not unique. But people still call us kind of the OG themers, meaning that we were buying homes in Orlando and turning them into like theme park homes. So like think murals on every single wall, fog machines are under the beds, sound effects.
Oh, Jeff is suffering from conference Wi-Fi.
Panama City Beach.
Sorry, Jeff,
And
you broke up for a little bit. I think you're suffering from poor
oh
conference
no.
Wi-Fi, but it's okay. We got that. You have a very themed homes in Orlando, and I think a lot of people have
Yeah.
copied your guys' model because I see more homes with those like crazy themed bedrooms and arcades and all those types of things, especially in that market.
Yes, exactly. And so the reason I bring that up is because the lesson we learned, and this is a really important one, is that you can have the most beautiful property in the world. And I bet a ton of people on this call have put a ton of money and effort into making their home as presentable as possible. But what we found is that none of that matters if you're not appearing in search on the OTAs, especially Airbnb. In fact, I just listened to a presentation yesterday from Key Data that shows Airbnb's market share in terms of overall bookings has increased like 5% year over year, taking market share from VRBO, Booking.com, and others. So if as you're thinking about which OTAs you list on, unfortunately, Airbnb is still growing market share. So you still need to take it seriously. And even these big property managers that are here, 300 properties, have to be on Airbnb or they won't survive, right? So there's still the unfortunate reality is there's still critical piece to your overall portfolio. And so what I did when we started Loma Homes is I realized there was this data within Airbnb that was not easily accessible. And you can go into this data in your Insights tab within your hosting dashboard of Airbnb, and you can see it. But if you really want to analyze that data in a way that's helpful for making decisions, you have to go in there every single day and like look at every single individual day and do that every day for every property and collect that data and track it in order to make decisions. And it's just not scalable. It's not reliable, right? Even if you only have one property. So what we did is we created technology that would allow us to go and collect that data. We did that with our Chrome extension. And what we do is we collect it every day so that you can track performance over time. So if you make a change on your listing, you can track what the impact that had on your conversion rates, on your click rates, on your first page impression rate, like all those things. And I'll go over why that's important in a minute. But we launched that for ourselves internally, and we basically used it for a year before we decided to make it kind of public to the market and take it to everyone. And we did that in March of 2023. And in just June of this year, we went free on IntelliHost to just make it more available for everybody. And so, anyways, that's where we are now. We now have over 65,000 properties on our system that we track data for and give analytics to, and growing quite quickly. We analyze tens of thousands of properties every day, and we've gotten really good at understanding what drives actual performance and search on Airbnb. So that's me. That's IntelliHost in a nutshell, and that's where we're at. Awesome. So, why does this matter? The industry is changing rapidly, guys. If you haven't noticed, there's a lot of things changing all the time. And people always bring up COVID, but forget even COVID for a minute. Um, I just wanted to bring up a few stats that you may or may not know. And these are reasons why you need to be watching your listing. You need to be optimizing it. You need to be adapting with the times. Okay. For example, average lead times have dropped 12% in just 1 year, meaning people are booking more last minute than ever before. And they're also staying for shorter time periods. So a lot of these markets that are used to just like Destin, for example, they do these 7 night bookings. They only do 7 night bookings. Well, they're gonna fall behind. Like that's a trend that they need to adapt to because people want shorter stays and they want them more last minute. They're more kind of yeah, I guess procrastinating their travel plans a little bit. The other thing is Like I just mentioned, Airbnb has grown their market share by 5% since 2024, stealing market share from Vrbo and even a little bit of direct bookings. Um, the mobile bookings are increasing rapidly. So if you do have a direct site, make sure it's mobile friendly. Dynamic pricing, 40% of property managers now use AI-driven pricing tools. That is a really quick adoption. I mean, AI pricing tools have only been out for, I don't know, maybe less than a year. And property managers are adopting that quickly. So if you're not adopting more intelligent pricing tools, you're gonna fall behind. So those are just some of the reasons why I think you need to be watching your numbers, watching your data, and using the tools that you need to stay ahead. Okay.
Yeah, and I just like to emphasize here this the Airbnb market share piece is true globally. Like we see in the US, Vrbo is a competitor, is the main competitor, but even outside the US, with Booking.com, they're also struggling to keep up with Airbnb, and Airbnb just has a huge advantage on branded direct traffic. So it gets a little messier when people are searching on Google, but Expedia, Booking have to spend huge amounts of money on Google to get the same booking that Airbnb is getting for free just because Airbnb owns branded traffic, which is obviously the biggest issue when it comes to driving direct bookings, right? So, which we'll talk more
Absolutely.
about later.
Definitely. So this is where we start to get into the weeds and the details. One of the things that makes us unique with IntelliHost is our ability to measure traffic. Nobody in the market right now is measuring traffic data. So if you give me just a minute, I got a little bit of background noise here for just a second. But what makes IntelliHost unique is that we are using the traffic data straight from the source. Okay, so we're talking about impressions data, first page impressions, clicks, and booking data straight from Airbnb. Okay. If you go into your Insights tab, you go into your hosting dashboard, you click on it, you can actually filter or look at this. But we're collecting that for you daily, and you're surfacing that for you within our dashboard for free. Now, I want to help you understand the different steps of the booking funnel so that you understand how to optimize your listing. This kind of goes back to stop guessing and start making decisions. I hear this all the time. People are like, well, bookings dropped off a cliff, so I got new pictures. Or bookings dropped off a cliff, so I changed my cancellation policy. Well, that's great, but how do you know that that thing was the reason that your bookings dropped off a cliff? Maybe it had nothing to do with you at all. Maybe it was just market. Maybe understanding your booking funnel helps you understand what part of the funnel you're losing your customers so that you can address that specific step. Okay. So I'm going to go through the 4 steps of the booking funnel so that you understand what your levers are, what things you can do to actually optimize your listing. And then in the next slide, I'm going to show you the process that I would go through it so that you have some actionable steps to take. Okay. So the first step every guest takes to book a property on Airbnb is called an impression. And an impression is every time your property appears in search. Okay. Now we're not talking about how it ranks in search or how those search results are sorted. We're just talking about getting in search in the first place. And in order to get an impression, you need to the word I want you to think about is filters. What filters are people using to knock your property out of that search result? Okay. Now, you want to appear in as many search filters as possible. Now, the big 3 filters that everybody uses are date, guest count, and location. Okay. If you have a minimum night stay of 4 nights and people are selecting 2 nights, you're getting filtered out. Okay. You're getting filtered out of that search completely. So one of the biggest filters right off the top that you can use to get more searches and appear in more searches is just lowering your minimum night requirement. Okay. Um, and then obviously guest count. The bigger your property, the more searches you'll appear. The more guests you can handle, the more searches you'll appear. Um, After that, there's a few really key categories that I recommend you think about. Number one, I would think about child or family friendly and child friendly amenities. We see this a lot in a lot of areas. The types of amenities that people are searching for are like, does it have a crib? Does it have, is it have kid-friendly stuff? And if you're a parent, let me tell you, I have 5 kids. I've traveled before, and it is crazy. Like if there's not a crib there, it's a deal breaker. I filter for it because if they don't have the things, I'm not gonna pack a pack and play for my kid and bring it and fly it across the country. It's just not gonna work. Okay, so think about kid-friendly amenities, and the second thing is think about accessibility amenities. So think about if your home is accessible by a wheelchair, you better put that in there. That is something that someone would filter by to actually to filter down to the results that they need, right? That's a deal breaker for them. So there's other things that aren't necessarily deal breakers, but nice to have. Add those, right? Especially if there's cheap amenities that you can put in there, don't get filtered out if you don't have to be. Okay. And just make sure you check all those boxes that you really have. Like I'd recommend everyone go through their properties and make sure every checkbox that you can check is checked so that you don't get filtered. Okay. So that's impressions. The second step is first page impressions. Now we're talking about the sort order. So once you actually get in the search in the first place, then you've got to get filtered to the top. The problem is, and this is what drives me crazy, everybody focuses on search rank, right? Everybody wants to know how am I ranking in Airbnb? That's great, but guess what? It's the hardest step to have any effect on because it's completely driven by Airbnb's algorithm. And there are so many factors that go into that algorithm, and we'll talk about a few, but there's so many factors that it's almost superfluous to even focus on this one. Because if you focus on the next 2 steps, you'll actually automatically fix first page impression rate. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But first page impression rate is the number of times you appear on first page. I also want to mention there are we ourselves and other companies use rank, right? They try to scrape your rank on Airbnb. I want to paint some caution around using rank to optimize your listing, and here's why. Rank cannot be tracked accurately. Okay, rank cannot be tracked accurately, and what I mean by that is I can go to Airbnb and put the exact same filters that you put in, and we will get entirely different results. On top of that, most I should say any search on Airbnb only has 15 pages and 18 results on each page. That's like 270 results that can appear in a given result. So if I want to track your rank and you're on your number 500 of 6,000 properties in your area, I've got to use subjective filters to even get you to show up. To actually tell you what your rank is, I've got to start applying things like, oh, look in a 3 mile radius or search for things with pools or, and that element makes it so that rank is not truly, truly accurate. And instead of that, you really need to be using the first page impression rate that comes out of Airbnb. You can just go to your Insights dashboard and look at it, or you can just go onto IntelliHost, link your account, and it's there as well. So use first page impression rate from Airbnb. Don't use rank. It's just not helpful. It's not accurate. So that's step number 2. Now, step number 3 is clicks. Now, so once somebody has you've gone through, let's say you've appeared at the top of results, you've passed step 2. Now it's up to the guest to determine if they want to click on your property or not. And there's really like a handful of things that a guest can even see to determine whether they want to click on your property. Number 1 is your cover photo. It's the biggest piece of real estate that's on there. Number 2, it's like guest favorite or superhost status. Number 3, your price, and number 4, your reviews. I'm not even giving those 4 in order of priority necessarily. We don't know if price in some areas, price is more sensitive, and reviews are more sensitive than superhost or guest favorite. But those are the main like 4 things that people are looking at to determine if they want to explore your property further. So if you're having a problem with your click rate, it really isolates down to a handful of things. In fact, I love it when I have a click rate problem because it makes there's only like 5 things that I can even affect that would determine a click. Now, it used to be that Airbnb had a different kind of UI or a different interface, and the title was actually a significant piece of that listing, or it was a significant piece of the real estate. Titles have been like completely diminished by Airbnb. They abbreviate them. You can hardly see anything at all. And so people agonize over what keywords to put in their title. guess what? It doesn't matter. Just don't worry about the title so much. Maybe put the top few, top driving amenities in your title in the first part of the listing so that you can drive traffic. But the reality is you need to focus on those other things. Superhost status, guest favorite, cover photo, pricing, and reviews. Okay. So those are the main five. Now, the interesting thing, we ran a big analysis on this and we looked at tens of thousands of properties and we analyzed the correlation between click rate, meaning the percentage of time that somebody saw you and then clicked, and your first page impression rate. So what impact does click rate have on how well you get sorted or how well you rank on Airbnb? And this was this number two most impactful thing that drives your ranking. So getting good at getting clicks will actually help you rank higher. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy and it kind of multiplies on itself. Is if you get good at getting clicks, then that makes you better at getting ranked, which gives you more clicks, which, right? And it just kind of perpetuates that way. So the number one most impactful thing that helps your first page impression rate, though, is your conversion rate. And that's step 4. So after they've clicked on you, then you've got to convince them to book. So now they're looking at things like your description, your photos, your cancellation policy, and all those things. But they haven't even seen your photo order until this step. And I see so many times people are struggling with their first page impression rate, or they're struggling with impressions, and they're juggling their photos around. They don't work on a step. It's not relevant to your problem. Start from the top of the funnel and work down, but don't focus on things that are not relevant to your issue. Okay, and that brings me to the next slide. If you want to hit that,
I
Arthur.
have a question.
Yeah, yeah.
Does Airbnb optimize your cover photo for you, or are you always describing what that is going to be?
Yeah, it is a good question. It they've been rolling that out over time, and I do think that for special categories, they do, like when they use AI to analyze your photos and put you in special categories, and then if
Hmm.
you qualify for a special category, they usually put the cover photo that
For that.
matches that special category when you click on that special category. That makes sense. So
Totally.
they
Okay.
they do dynamically choose your cover photo for you, but there are, call it a general search result and then a special category search result. And usually the special category result is one determined by Airbnb, where the general one is determined by you. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Cool. So we're actually going to go
Oh,
forward 2 slides.
sorry.
Oh, you're good. So how would I recommend you actually go about this? So let's talk about the action steps I recommend you take to actually optimize your listing, right? Step 1 is isolate your issue. And you do this, you can go to your booking funnel dashboard on IntelliHost, and you can identify the step that you're falling behind the competition. And I recommend looking at the rate, not necessarily the value, because you can see if you have 10,000 first page impressions, but if you're that's only like 2% of your overall impressions, then that's a problem, right? So the rate is so for example, first page impression rate means of all the times you appeared in search, how many times did you get on the first page? And same thing with click rate. Of all the times you got clicked, or sorry, of all the times you appeared in search on the first page, how many times did you get clicked? So it's a ratio that you're looking at. And that ratio is really important because it's not dependent upon seasonality. Seasons, right? You can get tons of clicks in summer, but the rate at which you went from a first page impression to a click is what you want to watch because it shows you efficiency. It shows you how efficiently you're converting guests through your funnel. Okay. So step 1, isolate, look at your rates and figure out which step you need to focus on. Is it first page impression rate, click rate, or conversion rate, or impressions? Step 2 is form a hypothesis. Now, that hypothesis is determined by what levers drive that step. So I gave the example of clicks. There's only 5 things that can really drive your clicks. So if you're having a click rate problem, form a hypothesis of which of those 5 things is the problem. The third step is to now test the solution. So if you think it's your cover photo, change your cover photo. We have a free tool in IntelliHost called Change Tracker. If you change something on your listing, we will pick it up for you automatically. And what you can do is you go to your change tracker and see what happened after you made the change. So if your click rate's suffering and you change your cover photo and your click rate goes back up, you won. If it goes down even more, well, you need to try something else. I highly recommend you not change too many things at once. If you change one thing, wait like 7 days so that you can see what the result of your metrics are because of that change. If you change a ton of things all at once, you're gonna struggle. Okay.
Okay. So since your tool is driven through a Chrome extension, do you need to visit your Airbnb page daily for your Chrome extension to track it, or is it integrated in another way?
You don't need to visit the page daily. You just need to open your Chrome browser um, once a day or for every
Oh,
day
so
that you want
Chrome,
it
it
to
will
go
just
by.
run in the background of your Chrome once you've opened the browser. Makes
That's
sense.
right. You
Okay, I
do have to
understand.
open up your browser at some point during the day for it to collect that day. But we do have logic that kind of fills in gaps if you miss a day or two. Like it's not a big deal if you miss 2 or 3 days. Our logic can kind of fill in those gaps for you. So it's not
And
a
I guess the good thing about Airbnb and running tests is that the traffic is so massive that you can get a result pretty quickly, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the power of using traffic data. If all you were looking at was your ADR occupancy and RevPAR, gosh, you'd make a change and you'd have to wait 3 months to find out if it actually made a difference. But with traffic data, you can make a change and watch in real time what's happening to your click traffic before you even get a single booking, right? And now by looking at those preemptive metrics, you're able to make decisions quicker and have a bigger impact on your listing.
Do
Okay.
you find that the changes you make that cause a positive response in Airbnb are reflected in other OTAs?
I can't say that I have empirical data to prove that,
But
but I
your
think it would make
hunches?
sense. I think it does. And the reason is because it's
Yeah.
the same basic process. You have to appear in a search, you have to get, and really what we found when it comes to like ranking is almost every algorithm, search algorithm, uses similar metrics, and those metrics are usually based around engagement. So, meaning that listings that get clicked and booked more are telling their algorithm that that is a more relevant listing. And those are the types of things that Airbnb rewards. People agonize over keywords, but I honestly don't think Airbnb gives a darn about keywords in your Airbnb listing. And the reason is because why would they? When they have metrics like conversion, click rate, reviews, guest favorite, superstar, like all of these things they have that are far more telling about how good a property is. Why would they look at a keyword that can be hacked by anybody? Right? So,
Yeah, I mean the same thing happened in with Google search back in the early 2000s as people
yeah.
were it was totally oriented on keywords, but once Google could measure engagement post click
Yep.
and what satisfied the search result, that's what they want to optimize towards. And obviously Airbnb is optimizing towards the revenue. And at the end of the
Yep.
day, click to book is probably the most important metric there because they want people to stay on Airbnb and complete the booking and not abandon and go to another OTA.
100%. I could not agree more. And I think that people are still trying to optimize their keywords on Airbnb under this assumption that all search algorithms work the way Google used to 20 years ago. And it's just not true. So, um, anyways, I hope that gives you a framework to use to optimize your listing to make more revenue on Airbnb and really any OTA. And start making more revenue. Actually, I think we have one more slide that helps you. Yeah. So let's talk about. So once you've optimized your listing, that's step one. Like the last thing you want to do is just reduce your price because you want to put your best foot forward so you can charge as much as possible on your property. But once you've done that, the incremental changes or incremental improvements you can make from optimizing your listing are pretty small. I wouldn't expect a 20% increase for changing your cover photo unless that cover photo was absolute trash. But generally, optimizing your listing is going to bring 1 or 2% improvements. And the biggest ROI you can have on your time is pricing after that. So once you've optimized your listing, you need to make sure that you're looking at pricing from the lens of your guest. And here's what I mean by that. Your competitors are not booking your property. Your guests are. Now, I love Price Labs. I love Wheelhouse. They're all better tools than nothing, but they are basing your pricing off of your market or your competition. And most of your market competition don't know what the heck they're doing either. So it's actually a blind leading the blind. You can be in the 75th percentile of your market, but if they don't know what true demand, meaning the guest demand is doing, they don't. Like it's not a good benchmark. And so what you need to be using instead is the click traffic for your specific listing on the specific days of your calendar. And that's what we do in IntelliHost. So we do have a free tool called predictive pricing. You can go in there, it'll show you how many clicks you're getting on each day of the next 90 days. And we even calculate how likely you are to be booked based on each day or based on that click traffic. Now, we have a paid service that actually, we have a machine learning algorithm that will even change your prices for you on a daily basis. We call it Revenue IQ. And if you're interested in that, you can reach out. I'll help you with that. My point is, you need to be basing your pricing decisions off of traffic and not market data, not market competition. Now, they will call it demand data all day long, but it's really supply data because it's your competition's pricing. So that's really kind of wraps up what I wanted to teach you today. I hope that you guys are understanding the importance of data, but also how to use that data to really drive revenue for you.
I have some questions I love just to
Yeah,
chat with you with.
yeah,
So obviously, so the click from impression to click is cover photo, price reviews, superhero status, and guest favorite. Obviously, price reviews, superhero status, and guest favorite are all objective measures. Like even the price, you could know with Price Labs where you're like falling, even if it's, some question on like what everyone else is doing right. But the photo is definitely the most subjective one. So how would you have someone approach or recommend, if they were to test another cover photo, how would you approach that test? Because obviously that is like the least objective of these metrics.
yeah. It is a little bit of an art there. We do actually, we just released a product in August called DeepRank AI. And what it does is it actually looks at the top performers in your market and it analyzes the photos of the top performers in your market. And then what we do is we recommend a photo order based on what your top competitors are doing. So it even looks at what's in those photos. Like, is it a hot tub? Is it a sunset picture? All of those things. And then it looks at your photos and says, based on that, put these photos first, these first five. Um, and even gives you like some photo quality recommendations as well. So I think if you don't know how to do the art, like some people have the artistic eye and can kind of sense what their customers or their guests are looking for. If you're like me and you're more data analytical, I would just use a tool like DeepRank. Your first DeepRank is actually free on IntelliHost too, so you could just run that, get your photo order, and do it that way.
And you mentioned obviously date minimums is very important for upping your impressions as well as the different categories. When it comes to the actual click to booking conversion, what are the policies, I would say, because I see people that have non-refundable rates, refundable rates. I see people, have different cancellation policies. Kind of what are the policy changes around your listing where you see the biggest change in click to booking in terms of conversion there?
Yeah, I would say that it's interesting. So when it comes to like say refund policy, you talk about like that type of policy, like your
Hmm.
refund, yeah, or your cancellation
Refund
policy.
cancellation.
Yeah. Um, so what we see with that one is kind of a dichotomy, because we obviously see a higher conversion rate, a significantly higher conversion rate with more flexible policies. That's pretty obvious. But what we see in terms of revenue is the opposite.
People actually cancel.
Well, yeah. I
Or
mean,
yeah,
I don't know if it's because people are canceling. There's another theory,
yeah.
and that is people who make more revenue have increased their or have stricter cancellation policies because they can.
Hmm.
And so it may be more of like a chicken and the egg kind of question.
Totally.
Um, but like I said, conversion goes up with flexible cancellation policies, but down in revenue, with more flexible cancellation policies. So you have to be careful and make sure that you're watching that.
That makes sense. 'Cause maybe if you have a lower quality property in the market, you have to lean into those other changes already. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy
I
within your market.
Overall, I recommend for anyone getting started that you open up your flex, like you make your policies when you go first get started. You open up your flexible or have the most flexible cancellation policies. You reduce your minimum night stay to one. You do a lot of things that just get people in the door. And if you can get 15 to 20 reviews, like really good reviews, then you can start getting picky. But I think you have to get those reviews in there as quickly as you can. And the other thing that'll do is if you have one night minimum stays, and I know you're asking for parties, and everyone on listening to this is like, are you kidding me? I'll never do that. And I wouldn't either for my own property. But if I was getting started for the first month, that really increases your engagement. You're going to get more bookings because you can fit more in, and you can get tons of reviews in a very short period of time. That just kind of jump starts your listing so that you can start strong and get going.
So I mean, I guess the general sense is at the beginning for a new property, you can be least restrictive. And then once you develop a reputation in Airbnb, have good reviews,
Yeah,
whatever things matter to you the most in terms of what you need to restrict to kind of operate your own business, you can become choosier in those areas, whatever that is in your
100%.
market and for how you want to operate. And I
Exactly
think
right.
that's all really great. Yeah, and um, maybe just describe kind of if someone's interested in, before I jump into more direct booking stuff, if someone's interested in IntelliHost, what should they do next?
Yeah, so you can reach out to us at connect@intellihost.co. You could follow us on social media. We have a bunch of free studies that we've done that we put on YouTube. And I just speak to different kind of like these numbers that I've been speaking to as far as like conversion rate and what drives the Airbnb algorithm and all those things. We just That's free education that we put online. So follow us on YouTube and reach out to connect@intellihost.co.
I think we get one question for you. I think we should just do now is someone said they have good first page impressions, but their click rate is lower than their competition. So it seems to me that it's probably one of these issues, right? Cover photo, price reviews, superhero status, and guest favorite is one
Yep.
of the where they should drive their hypothesis around, right? Is what they
Exactly
want
right.
to
So,
test.
yep. So if you have great impressions and first page impressions, but your click rate is falling behind, I would definitely focus on one of those five things. So it's either your cover photo, your cover photo, your guest favorite or superhost status, pricing, or reviews. Now, the one thing I will say is because whenever you're looking at rates, there's a little bit of a catch 22 because if you're doing really like you're outpacing the market by far in your impressions, um, it's rare that you're beating your competition on all of the rates. So like if the competition's not showing up as much, they're probably going to have like if they're not getting a higher first page impression rate, they're probably going to have a higher click rate. But if you're going to have a higher first page impression rate, you might have a lower click rate. It's like when you run ads on your listing, you're going to have a higher impressions because you're paying for those, but then you're just going to have a lower rate of clicks. So take it with a grain of salt. Like you might actually be doing really really well on your clicks, but doesn't mean that's not the step that you should focus on. So I do think you should focus on your clicks and those four metrics that I just mentioned. But keep in mind, if you're just outpacing the market um, in a really strong way, the rate can look lower on the next step.
Because if you have like a great if you look at the impression to book rate, you could be the same as somebody who has a higher click rate and lower impressions, and you could have higher impressions and lower click rate, right? But
Yeah,
from impression to book, you guys might actually be the same, which is
yeah,
probably what they're looking at end to end. And we get one other very specific question for you, which is someone has a lot of properties and they aren't ready to purchase Revenue IQ. Is there a way to purchase Deep Rank AI credits without Revenue IQ?
yeah, totally. So actually, give me till next week. So
Okay, Nathan.
next week we're releasing some self-checkout options that you can purchase AI credits with, or so you could purchase deep rank, and with that you should be able to get on a call with the sales rep, and they'll actually customize whatever you need. So they should be able to let you subscribe to just deep rank. Or subscribe to just an account manager or both. So there's kind of some a la carte options that should be available next week. Um, at the earliest, we're just finishing that up like right now. So hopefully that answers that question.
No, I think that's very helpful. Obviously, we talked a lot about direct bookings. I mean, we talked a lot about Airbnb bookings. Um, Now we can talk a little about direct bookings because obviously, everyone gets started with Airbnb, but obviously everyone's goal over time is to slowly reduce their dependence on Airbnb because of all of the issues we just went over, which is you have a lot of control, but there is a lot of other things you can't control, things like how the algorithm works. You can't control competition. You can't control demand on Airbnb, right? All of those things are still out of your control. So we can control what we can, obviously what we just discussed, but there's still a lot of things outside of your control. So building up a second source of bookings directly is going to be key to maintaining the vibrant health of your business. And so I'll just talk a little bit about kind of like the top ways that you can do that, especially with StayFi. And it all really starts with understanding who your guests are and collecting all of their information. And we have a ton of great tools that help you do that. Number one, I talked about before was the Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is obviously a thing that every single person in your rental is going to interact with during the course of the stay. And that's really why we chose it as the main data collection point because we're not asking them to fill out extraneous forms, send forms, fill out pre-arrival information that then we're like sending to the other guests there, right? All of that is not part of the natural booking process. But everyone's going to join the Wi-Fi, and that's a great point not only to collect your data, of the guests, but also to start changing the guests' mindset. So when you have guests that book on Airbnb, they are going to call your property an Airbnb and they're going to think of it as an Airbnb. And with StayFi and through the what I'll describe is we want to transform the guest's mentality during the course of the stay, where you're going to go from a generic Airbnb to a Loma Homes or whatever your brand happens to be. And then we also have the ability to collect data prior to the stay through some forms that we send through your PMS. We will also integrate with your property management software to kind of combine data from Wi-Fi with your reservation data. And then, of course, we can also collect data on your website with a kind of traditional website form that you've seen on a bunch of different types of websites. Here is what the Wi-Fi data collection process looks like. A guest joins the Wi-Fi. This captive portal is what we call it, or splash page will appear automatically on their device. And obviously, this will be customized to your branding. So we can start the process of educating your guests that you're not a Airbnb, that you are your own operator with your own brand. And then we have this second page called the home page. You can think of this as a link tree for your listing. So basically, it presents to all of your guests all of the valuable links you'd want them to know about your property. And the key thing here is you've probably been talking with the booker through automated messaging at least prior to their stay. You may have sent them your guidebook or information about the listing, but we can't count on the booker to share that with the non-booking guests. So this really gives you your opportunity to share all this other beneficial information about how to purchase a upsell like late checkout, how to access or use the pool, things like that, the grill, all that guidebook information right at the fingertips of all of the guests. And then we can then start automating marketing. So, for instance, right after the guest logs in, we can then trigger an email, a text message to every single guest, including this homepage in that email and text, as well as why they should book directly with you again for their next stay. So really start that process of educating guests about why booking directly for future stays is important. Just to give a little sense of kind of like what results you can achieve with StayFi. This is an operator called Juniper Holiday and Home out of Michigan. Uh, Within 1 year of using StayFi, they had over 11,000 guest emails. They drove 204 more direct bookings than the year previously, which is obviously tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of additional revenue for their business. And the key thing is it's not just cannibalizing Airbnb bookings with direct bookings. And unless if your occupancy is 100% in Airbnb, which just probably means your prices are too low anyways, you probably have open nights. And so it's important to think about direct bookings as not just I'm going to replace an Airbnb booking, which I won't pay commission on with a direct booking. When you build a robust direct booking channel, you're going to fill nights with direct bookings that otherwise would have gone unbooked, or you would have had to book at a much lower price at the last minute. So they not only saw more direct bookings, we're going to increase the overall occupancy rate, which means we're going to make a lot more marginal revenue per home. And then, of course, we have the benefit of being able to monitor the Wi-Fi and have less Wi-Fi calls and issues in all the properties with StayFi. So one thing is, once we're collecting data, what do we want to do with it? I think this is where a lot of short-term rental operators struggle because maybe you don't have any marketing experience. And that's especially true for people that they're doing this on the side. They're starting out as a host with a few properties. You've never used MailChimp before. It's like, how do you send email marketing? And that's why we, a few years ago, launched our own email marketing tool so that we could build one specifically for vacation rentals. So in here, we have a bunch of one-click campaigns, as we call them, which are both automations and kind of like traditional newsletters where we've kind of built them for you. So on the right here, you can see an example of where we have all these sections where we kind of pre-fill the text and images, and then you can just edit them. But it's basically already preset, ready to go. You don't need any design experience to send them. You can also send unlimited emails. And then we also integrate with your property management software to bring in relevant information. So, for instance, if you want to feature properties in your email, instead of going back and forth and copying and pasting images and copying and pasting texts and prices, you just select the properties you want to feature in your email and we'll put in all that information for you. So going way above and beyond what you would see in a like a MailChimp or other kind of generic email marketing tool. Some really cool email automations that our customers are using. I mentioned Wi-Fi welcome. This is definitely number one. So the moment the guest logs into the Wi-Fi, we're triggering an email. This is where, again, we're going to reinforce with another message that you are not Airbnb, you are, in this case, Seabreeze Villas. And here you can really nail home the value proposition for direct bookings. And for most people, the value proposition is going to be pricing because we're not going to have that Airbnb commission added into the price. And some operators are going to give all of that savings to their guests, and some are going to split it between themselves and the guests at 15.5%. So you can make your bookings not only more profitable for yourself, but also achieve guest savings by splitting that commission with your guests. Then, of course, we can send an email post departure. So, again, nail home the fact that they should be booking with you directly. And then, stay anniversary is another huge one where you can send an email 7, 8, 9 months post stay. Because for a lot of short term rental operators, they're operating in locations where guests are doing once a year trips. So, we really want to remind guests again why they should book directly when it's time for them to book the trip for their next stay. And all of that, again, is going to really help reinforce in the mind of the guest not only should they book directly and that you're not Airbnb, but there are benefits to booking directly. And the great thing about automations is once you set these up, they will just be sent on your behalf automatically, and you don't need to worry about sending a newsletter every other week at the beginning because you know that you're emailing automatically to all of your guests. So here's an example of a stay anniversary automation that Juniper did. And I just love this example because number one, you can see they have an insane open rate. Like over half the individuals who get this email are opening, which shows you that the data we are collecting via Wi-Fi, those guests remain highly engaged. And the other great thing that I like featuring in here, if you look here, is that actually this is an operator that does not differentiate direct bookings with price. I don't even know if she charges less directly than an OTA because this is all built around like concierge services and more of a luxury approach. So it shows you that while price is easy to go to when it comes to why someone should book direct, you can also differentiate on service level amenities. And that is also a fantastic way to differentiate yourself from a generic Airbnb, right? And differentiating on things like that are actually very hard on Airbnb itself. So like having concierge services, things like that, those are not really things that are translated well to an Airbnb listing. But once you bring them into your marketing in your direct world, you can really highlight those facts about your operation. And then in our software, we also help you send newsletters. So once you have about 500 emails in your list, that's when it makes sense to spend the time to send a once a month at least newsletter to your entire database. And because we integrate with your PMS to bring in the data you already have, when you open a StayFi email marketing account, you may already have 200, 300, 400, 500 plus guest emails that you can start with already before we even start collecting more. And the really cool one here is upcoming availability. So that's this first email here. So basically, this operator, they noticed that they had an opening this coming weekend. And so when you go into StayFi to send an email, you can actually select the dates in the calendar where you want to look through all of your properties and pull in the prices and dates for the properties that are available. So right now, for instance, you could go into StayFi and say, hey, I want to send an email for New Year's and I want to highlight my last two properties that are not booked for New Year's. you can put in the dates for New Year's. We will pull those properties into your email with the prices and dates, and then you can send out that email saying like, "Hey, we only have two properties left in X destination for New Year's," and make sure you're getting that, high demand part of the year booked. Again, extremely high engagement rate. Like you may think, "Oh, I only have 708 recipients. Like, am I really going to get a booking from this email?" They did, because in this case, in the Poconos, there are like a heavy drive-to market, and they did have somebody who got this email and said, "Hey, I'm going to fill in this weekend availability that maybe was a last minute cancellation," right? So being able to put availability into your emails will increase your conversion rate because you're really matching demand with supply, as opposed to sending an email about properties that are not available to book anymore. And then the last one, which is definitely the most underutilized tool in StayFi for marketing, is text marketing, but it's definitely one that you should consider as well. So if you think about email versus text marketing, email has very high opt-in rates, 80, 90% in StayFi, but you're going to get lower open and click-through rates. So open rates anywhere between 20 and 50% on the high end, click-through rates of 1 to 4%. SMS, you will get a lower opt-in rate, so maybe 20 to 30% of your guests, but the engagement rate will be much higher. So you can get 10% click-through rates with text. So smaller audience, but more engaged audience. And in StayFi, you can send, again, very similar text to the email automation. So things like a Wi-Fi welcome text where you're sending a link to the homepage with amenities right after login. But then you can send text messages to your whole audience. And now we have more filtering around these. So you can even send a text message to everybody that stayed at a specific property. So again, a great use case for you have a last minute cancellation, you have an opening during a high demand time of year. You can send a text message to everyone that stayed at this home and let them know, "Hey, as a favored guest who stayed with us before, here's a special deal, or here's availability where you can book with us." Also great to feature in text are new properties, as well as like events in your destination too. So you obviously don't want to spam your audience, but if you have something high value that you want to communicate to your audience, text is a great way to send it out and get very quick response in terms of being able to book something right away. Here's an example of some texts that one of our operators sends, and she keeps sending these texts with her listing. She has about 10 to 15, I believe, at Branson Family Retreats. And she's getting bookings from all of these. So you can see here there's a variety of different things she's offering. So in the upper right, late checkout. So again, not just using price, but saying, "Hey, if you book direct, you'll have late checkout included in your listing." The one on the upper left, we will include tickets to a local attraction that's very popular, Silver Dollar City. So again, not just saying like a 10% off code, she's giving something of value that's different in these SMS messages. And then in the bottom left, you can see we have one that's more traditional. So $100 off code with text 100. And that's just for 3+ night stays. So again, if you want to get more longer stay periods, then that's also something that you can be more specific around when it comes to promotions, where you're not just giving a 10% off coupon to anybody. You're saying, like, I'm going to give this only if you have achieve a certain minimum night stay directly. So you can be flexible. You can see all of these. Some of these she's exceeding, 700 messages sent, 82 clicks, exceeding 10% click-through rate, which is extremely high. Yeah, so with StayFi, we really work with operators of all size. So on this list here, we have someone in the upper right with one listing who's getting now 80% of their bookings directly. He has a very unique property in the Czech Republic that's like a refurbished, like kind of water wheel house on a river. It's very cool. But then we also work with large property managers that come to StayFi that before us were completely Airbnb. So Cozy Vacation Rentals, which I believe now is called Texas Vacation Rentals as they've branched out. They started with no direct bookings, and now they're getting over 30% of their bookings direct with the help of StayFi, and have tens of thousands of emails in their email database where they're now getting bookings every single time they send an email. It's a reliable way where they look at the properties where they need more bookings. They know which homeowners they need to get more bookings with. And they know, like, hey, we have this resource where if we send a newsletter, we can actually move the needle with these properties, with these owners, with this occupancy rate, right? So the high quality email lists can really not just juice your business overall, it can let you be more strategic even about where you want to drive more bookings across your portfolio. Sweet. Now with just 4 more minutes left, we do have a few other questions. Someone asked if you can create newsletters if you don't have the full StayFi marketing suite. Yeah, so just like Jeff mentioned about kind of like a la carte items and pricing and things like that. In StayFi, we have the Wi-Fi data collection tool, which is one subscription, and then we have the email marketing tool, which is a separate subscription. And with the email marketing tool, the pricing is based on the number of contacts in your database or number of subscribers. That's very similar to like a MailChimp, and actually you get up to like 200 subscribers free. So you can like start making newsletters without any contacts or very few contacts in your database and start sending them. Yeah, so you can subscribe to just email and you can just bring in the data you have from your PMS, from other ways you're collecting data, and just use the email marketing tool as a standalone tool. You can use the Wi-Fi tool as a standalone tool and integrate with a MailChimp, or if you have another third-party tool you love for email, you can send the data there, or you can use both and obviously send the data from Wi-Fi into our email tool. Um, if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to ask them now. If not, Jeff, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think you're spot on. I think I already gave you my endorsement, but we
Yeah.
organically use StayFi with our business and it was a game changer, so highly recommend it.
Oh yeah. And then if you're interested in StayFi, you can use code IntelliHost and you'll get 50% off your 3 months service. And someone did ask, um, does StayFi count contacts which are just first name, no other data? So when it comes to email marketing, we only count subscribers where we have an email address, obviously. So you can, yeah. So we wouldn't have data in StayFi that was just a first name with like no other data. Like there would have to be an email or phone number attached to the data. But we're only going to count people that are subscribers. So even if, as you guys probably know, like we have to collect opt-in for email marketing. So our default is like a pre-checked opt-in box when someone opens to Wi-Fi. If they uncheck that box, we're going to collect the data. So we'll have their name and email, but and that will be in your guest list, but we don't put it in the email tool because they didn't subscribe. So in the email tool itself, we're only going to count subscribers with an email. If someone unsubscribes, we don't count that towards the subscriber total either, which actually some other like MailChimp actually does, which I think is a little shady. Like for MailChimp, for instance, you have to like completely delete it out of your database, so that doesn't count. But for StayFi, we only count subscribers with a real email that are in your email tool. And if they unsubscribe or the email is or bounces, then they don't count towards your email marketing subscription. Um, and then if someone is interested in IntelliHost, is it IntelliHost.com or is it a different website they should go to, Jeff?
Oh,
If they're
sorry, mute.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
IntelliHost.co. IntelliHost.com.
IntelliHost.co.
Yeah, IntelliHost.com is like a web domain something in South Africa. So go to
Okay.
IntelliHost.co. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it would be pretty obvious if you do go to IntelliHost.com, that's not the right company. So if you are interested in IntelliHost, go to IntelliHost.co. And it sounds like they have a free tool that you can get started with before you decide if you want to subscribe to anything, which is amazing, which is similar to StayFi email. If you want to try StayFi email, it's free up to a certain point, so you can try that as well. And yes, there will be a recording of this video. Um, so you'll be able to watch it on our YouTube. And yes, Sherry, IntelliHost, right, Jeff has a free tier that anybody can use and see analytics. And then if you want to subscribe to anything, that's totally up to you. Is that
Yep.
correct?
100%.
Okay, sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. And this will get published in the next day or so. So if you want to watch this again, you can do so. Thank you, Jeff, for joining. It's great chatting with you.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. See you later.